Instilling fear and anxiety is instrumental to the success of any horror film, and it's a feat that is tough to accomplish with us horror nerds because we've seen almost everything thrown at us in a film's narrative, to the point where we can almost predict what happens next.
Because he's probably dead. His body will come popping up in the last reel somewhere. Eyes gouged out, fingers cut off, teeth knocked out. See, the police are always off track with this shit. If they'd watch Prom Night, they'd save time. There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
And in the history of horror cinema, only a few films have created those unpredictable elements of fear, and several of those films were brought to us by the master of horror himself, Wes Craven, in particular, Scream. Craven doesn't have to resort to the horror genre's overused jump scares to incite fear. Instead, he cultivates an all-encompassing atmosphere of dread that pervades the film. Silence, which can be as equally haunting as any score, is often exploited to the maximum effect, with the element of surprise used to heighten attention. Normal, everyday occurrences, a phone ringing, a knock on the door, a flickering light, are all transformed into something sinister and foreboding. And while the Scream franchise can boast having several heart-pounding, white-knuckle, dig your fingernails into the armrest of your chair, here are the 5 most suspenseful scenes in the Scream franchise that you may not, or probably, agree with.
I got you.
The latter scene. Despite Scream 6 being one of my least favorite films in the franchise, thanks to that horrible ending and all of the fake-out deaths, there are still several scenes in the film that are nail-biting. And while the train scene failed to fully capitalize on the tension it created, the latter scene delivered. We find the core 4 and friends returning to their apartment, and for the first time since coming together in Woodsboro, they have a chance to kick back a bit and enjoy each other's company. But a sense of calm and safety is quickly shattered by Ghostface, who has already arrived in their apartment and has killed Quinn's boyfriend. The scene expands where we see Danny from across the alley going about his daily routine of ironing his clothes with a shirt off, when he notices Ghostface creeping up behind Quinn. After failing to alert Quinn, for obvious reasons, he turns his attention to the others, only Sam ignores his call so that they all can enjoy her moment of solitude with her sister and friends. The tension begins to mount as we don't know who or how Ghostface will strike next. Danny finally gets their attention by sending them a photo of what's going on in the other room, causing them to run into the living room and huddle together just outside Quinn's door. The silence of the scene is almost deafening as the tension builds through the sounds of their heightened breathing.
Run.
Quinn's body is thrown through the door and Ghostface steps out of the room and gives chase, cornering Sam, Mindy, and a severely wounded Annika. Unlike previous films, there is no rooftop for them to escape out onto, so unless Ghostface is spooked off, someone is about to die. We just don't know how many will fall victim to the killer's blade. In a last-ditch effort to escape, Danny manages to get Sam's attention again and extends a ladder across the alleyway between their 2 apartments. It's here where the tension mounts even further as they begin to climb across, unsure if they will make it to safety before Ghostface breaks into the room. Not knowing if the ladder would hold their weight while they crossed, or if Mindy and Annika would be strong enough to even make it, The scene was nerve-wracking, and then seeing Ghostface finally enter the room and stand on the other side of the ladder only added to the terror. Kirby's house. Sure, it may have taken me 5 films to finally guess who was under the mask right, but Scream 4 was another masterpiece in its reveal and the motives behind the killings. Quite possibly the best since the original film. The scene for the reveal was staged at a Stabathon after party at Kirby's house, where the tension and shock were brilliantly captured through cleverly placed Easter eggs and the cat and mouse games that were going to unfold that night. The familiar warning signs started to appear that we were in the endgame when Trevor arrived, having received an invitation from Jill that no one could explain. Teen drama would cause everyone to separate, allowing for our Ghostface to begin picking them off one by one. After Sid arrives in panic to leave with Jill, Ghostface reveals himself, causing everyone to flee in the house, with the killer hot in pursuit of them. Seeing and hearing the sound of Ghostface's boots on the floor of the bedroom as he passes Jill was intense.
Okay? Jill, run. Just keep running.
We didn't know if Sid's plan was going to work where Jill had escaped. As the scene continues to unfold, we eventually find Kirby and Sid hiding in the shadows of the basement where Charlie stumbles upon them from the outside. He pleads with Kirby to be let in, but Sydney manages to convince her not to. Charlie's captured, and we get the most intense game of trivia with Kirby, with the idea that if she wins, Charlie's life will be spared.
Texas Chainsaw, Dawn of the Dead, The Hills Have Eyes, Amityville Horror, Last House on the Left, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, My Bloody Valentine, When a Stranger Calls, Prom Night, Black Christmas, House of Wax, The Fog, Piranha. It's one of those, right? Right?
After she wins, we're led into that false sense of security when she rushes outside to his aid, only to be stabbed by him in a well-executed betrayal and reveal of a Ghostface. The sound booth maze. This nail-biting scene begins in the lecture hall where Gail and Dewey's imminent hookup is rudely interrupted by Ghostface, who plays video clips of his previous victims just before they are killed. He then plays a live video feed of Gail and Dewey looking around for him. Dewey runs up to the projector room, leaving Gail to fend off Ghostface, who jumps out from behind her. She manages to escape his attack by leaping over a desk and smashing a phone into his face before retreating into a nearby hallway. The suspense of the scene begins to mount as Gail frantically checks every door in hopes of finding one that's unlocked. She manages to find refuge in an empty recording studio and quickly notices that Ghostface is lurking in the next room through the soundproof window. Gail hides just out of his sight and creeps into a maze of acoustic divider walls in the studio, with Ghostface also finding a way into the maze. She maneuvers stealthily from wall to wall until she finds her way inside of a storage room that cannot be locked. While looking for a place to hide, Dewey enters the sound room and spots Gail through the soundproof glass. And what happens next leads us all to believe that we were seeing the next big death of the film, as Ghostface attacks him from behind, driving his knife repeatedly into his back while Gail is forced to watch from the other side of the glass, helpless. Cop car scene. Jump scares are more subtle in Scream 2 compared to the other films, and this next scene could easily have been number 1, and maybe number 1 for many people out there. We're lured into a false sense of security as Sydney and Hallie are in the back of a police car, completely vulnerable and unsuspecting of what is about to happen. The absence of background music sets the scene for an unpredictable event. Officer Richards and Andrews are discussing the recent murders, not realizing that they are being watched by an ominous Ghostface who suddenly breaks the window and slices Andrews' throats, catching us off guard. Ghostface doesn't disappear this time. Instead, he climbs into the car and speeds off towards an unknown destination, while Richards hangs onto the hood of the car, threatening to shoot him. The tension is only broken when the car crashes into a construction site, resulting in Richard's impalement and knocking Ghostface unconscious. As the scene continues to unfold, Sidney and Hallie's only mean of escape is by climbing into the front seat and across Ghostface's lap. The intensity on Sid's face as she stares at Ghostface while she crawls past him is only intensified by the camera angles Wes Craven tailored for the scene. And there's that brief moment where Sid reaches to grab Ghostface's mask and we all yelled out for her not to do it. Just keep moving. With Sidney escaping, we all expected that Hallie would not be so lucky. But once again, Craven flipped the script on us, allowing her to escape and for us to put our guard down, only for that to be ripped from us a few moments later.
Oh shit.
What?
He's gone.
What?
Hello?
Casey Becker scene. There is no denying the stage that was set for the journey that we were about to embark on for over 25 years with the opening scene of Scream 1996. Its riveting introduction is arguably one of the most suspenseful moments in the entire series as the scene unfolds around Casey Becker, played by the illustrious Drew Barrymore, who we all thought was going to be our final girl, simply trying to enjoy a quiet evening at home. The setting is cozy and familiar, a young woman making popcorn and preparing to watch a movie, seemingly safe within the sanctuary of her own home. However, that tranquility of the scene is shattered by a ring from a telephone. At first, the conversation appears to be harmless, but the exchange quickly devolves into a terrifying game of survival as the unknown caller reveals malevolent intentions. From this point forward, the suspense continues to build. We are forced to grapple with our own mounting fear as we watch Casey try to outwit her unseen adversary. When we're introduced to the Ghostface killer for the first time, we see him darting through the house like a phantom, setting a grim tone for what is about to happen. Despite Casey's best efforts to escape, she ultimately falls victim to the killer in a gruesome display that leaves us on the edge of our seats, hearts pounding, and a clear message that no one was safe in what we were about to watch.
Casey, you upstairs?
Casey, baby.
Where is she? She's here. Oh my god, I can hear her. Where is she?
So what are some of the most terrifying and suspenseful scenes in the Scream franchise that you think should be on this list? Do you agree with my list? I say that opening scene on Scream 1 is definitely hard to beat. Now thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Pop 5. Appreciate you stopping in and spending some time with me. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do that, and also drop a like and drop a comment just to say hi, because back in the Blockbuster days, we've been talking about this over the counter as you were renting a film. Anyway, until the next, see ya.